Okay, I think we are recording. Hi guys, hi everyone. I'm just gonna record this on my laptop here. My son is sleeping, so it is what it is. I have my camera going up there as well as here, but I'll be talking to the camera. Okay, so Hanukkah is coming, and this year Hanukkah is I believe it starts the night of Christmas. I need to check my calendar, but I'm pretty sure it's either starting the night of Christmas or it's starting the night after Christmas. I'm pretty sure it's the night of December 25th, which in the West, in America, that is Christmas. So, something that we hear a lot, I think really in any like religious circle that you're in, predominantly like Islam or Christianity, or like any of the Messianic Hebrew roots, Jewish offshoots that we do see, is this idea that really just religion, but like paganism, everything is paganism. Paganism is bad. Stay away from the bad pagans, right? And in my opinion, there is a reluctance. Hopefully, y'all can hear me. I have my mic set up, but there's more of a reluctance to one, do the work and figure out what is pagan. How do we define that really? And it's just anything outside of institutionalized Christianity. A Western normative Judeo-Christian belief. That is what it has come to basically mean. And it is such a shame. And as someone who's kind of, been deconstructing or whatever people want to label it as now, but just becoming more holistic in spirituality and faith, and what does that even mean, and what does that look like for me as a soul, living in this body, experiencing this plane, dwelling on this earth, that is very ghetto at times. But what does that mean? What does that look like? So in all of that, I've kind of not been concerning myself with the no, stay away from the pagan things. What does that look like for me? I have, to some extent, gotten into certain things like tarot cards, oracle readings, or cards. And again, like I do this for myself. I'm not like necessarily having people read for me and all of that. That's just for me too much. With right now, I'm not really trusting. And I think it's more of coming back into myself and my intuitive self and understanding that there's a creator who created me with full intuition and full ability. And there's some level of trust I need to have in that, right? I need to cultivate that. So that's just where I'm at. It's not really a knock on anything else, but it's just where I'm at. So in that, it's not just tarot, it's meditation. It's looking at other spiritual traditions, specifically some of the Nordic ones, like Loki. Shout out to Freda. You know what I mean? Loki, like Odin's got some things, but like it's cool to study and to learn these stories, and to compare those with some of the Sumerian text, the Enuma Elish, Inky, all of these stories, right? They're not the same, but they have a lot of things in common, and there's a message that's definitely trying to be shared. If you catch my drift, if you're someone who reads and studies. So in that, this video is entitled Hanukkah and Christmas Pagan. Yalda, like what is Yalda? So a lot of people, I'm going to try to share my screen here, but it can be really difficult. But a lot of people don't know. So y'all know I was in like heavy in my Zoroastrianism bag. I'm like, you know what? Like the Bible is talking a lot about Persia. It's talking a lot about this region. I don't even know what's going on there. I don't know the history, like the true history of it. So I looked into Persian spirituality, Persian religion, ancient Persian spirituality, religion, beliefs, practices, etc. Zoroastrianism Zoroastrianism obviously was a big interest because that is where the main Abrahamic religions, I cannot talk today, Abrahamic religions have stemmed from. So, of course, that was something of interest to me, right? And so in doing that, you kind of get not away from Zoroastrianism, but just you look at the bigger picture of just what was Persian ancient religion or spirituality like. And in that, I found the celebration of Yalda. And I'm going to, I don't want to like do too much over here. So I'm just going to read. I don't know if you guys can still see me. Hopefully you can. But if you guys do, I don't know where to go. So I'm going to talk about Yalda first, and then we're going to get into winter solstice, Christmas, Saturnalia, kind of everyone knows that connection, and Hanukkah, because everyone's like, oh, like Hanukkah is like completely devoid of anything pagan, and that's pagan, and that's not necessarily true. Judaism, we have our own traditions, right? And it might be bad to certain people and certain faith traditions, but it's just not as bad as it sounds, I guess, to me. So Yalda, it's also called Shab-e Yalda, is a Persian celebration of the winter solstice. And if you don't know what the winter solstice is, it's the equinox. It's bringing in the winter. So it's kind of self-explanatory, but all of the ancient religions and stuff basically celebrated this, and that's no different from Christianity and Judaism. It just looks a little bit different. So how was Yalda or Shabi Yalda celebrated? Family gathering. So family would gather at the home of typically like the elder of the family, the matriarch or the patriarch. There's storytelling and poetry. So people read ancient poetry from philosophers or just ancient writings in the tradition. There's traditional food that's eaten, lots of pomegranates, that sort of thing. Colors. Red is displayed in foods, in the seating around, and it represents the rising sun. And then you have, drinks, basically teas. Candles and lightings are a very big deal. Sharing stories and visiting people and learning about just the histories and cultural stories, cultural norms. And so it's very much giving every holiday in the winter vibes. But something I found interesting was actually from John Hopkins Medicine. It's an article from there. Excuse me. And it's found in their diversity section. But it says that Yalda is a Syriac word meaning birth. So if you connect the fact that Yalda is talking, it's Persian, and we talk about this, what are Christians celebrating for Christmas? Based on the New Testament narrative, just put it together. And I'm not saying the Bible is saying this. I'm saying that this is what the celebration has become, and we need to look at why. Okay, so as I'm talking about this, you'll probably think Christmas. Okay, so Yalda is a Syriac word meaning birth, and the festival celebrates the eve, excuse me, the eve of the birth of Mithra. So you guys know I did the Zoroastrian teaching, so you guys should know what Mithra is or who Mithra is, the sun god. Now, I want to stop right here and say that the sun god, there's another sun god in ancient Eastern religion, Sumerian religion, but ancient Eastern religion, who is the sun god, not named Mithra, is a different language, but Shamash. Now, the Shamash candle is something that the Shamash is a candle that is a part of the Hanukkah, and it is the one that lights all of the other candles. So all of these things to me are related, but some people do not see the correlation. So anyway, that goes back to the family members who gather and they basically like try to stay up all night, and they pass this candle, the candles and the lighting, around, and, you know, just basically try to keep the light. And it's a way to protect themselves from lurking evil. So it's this idea of light coming in and banishing the darkness, that light and dark narrative. So I thought that was really interesting. Again, I'm not going to be on here too long. You guys know my voice is all messed up. But you guys look into Yalda. It is winter solstice. Look into it. Modern day. It's Iran, Uzbekistan, Azerbaijan, which I have some Azerbaijani family, Afghanistan, Iraq, Kurdistan, all of those areas. Look into that. They still celebrate Yalda. So going into, so that's like, to me, Yalda with the Christian narrative, it's very related. It's very closely related to me. And if you're not seeing the correlation, that's fine. I just think that it's worth being talked about. You know, there's lots of people who talk about Saturnalia and all this stuff, but you never hear anyone talking about Zoroastrianism, Persia, the influence of ancient religion, and this holiday that is still celebrated called Yalda. So I want to talk about specifically Hanukkah. And oh my goodness, I need tonight, you guys, for real, might be the night. It's really cold here. I'm in South Dakota. It is super cold here, but tonight might be the night that I don't blab on here for, I may not make it to 20 minutes. We're at about 12 minutes right now, and my voice is struggling. I work in HR, and I actually had a very talkative day, so I'm going to do the best I can. I should have made some tea. Anyway, okay. Yeah, I should have made some tea. I don't have any water near me. Anyway, so the story, so a lot of people look at Hanukkah and they have a Bible, a Protestant one, and like a Protestant canon. When I say that, I mean a Protestant canon. And they go into the book of John and they read about the fact that Christ was celebrating Hanukkah. Excuse me. And in that narrative, there's, how can I say? There's, depending on your translation, it's going to be called the Festival of Lights, or it's going to be called the Feast of Dedication. Hanukkah literally means like dedication. So you see it recorded or translated either way. It just depends on your translation. So with that, sorry, sometimes it's hard. Like, you have all of this information stored in your head and you're like, what is the best way to get this out? Is this even a point I want to dwell on? So, no, I don't want to do that. Okay. We were going to go through Hanukkah, Pesach, and all that. We're not going to do that. So anyway, we all know that Christ celebrated Hanukkah. You can find that in the book of John. And again, it'll be translated Feast of Dedication or Festival of Lights. Now, when people see Feast of Dedication, they tend to try to say that was a feast that was celebrated. It's one of the Moed, appointed times in Torah, and it is not. But some people will swear by the connection, and it is not there. I can make an argument for it being like in the Tanakh, and like maybe if you want to go with Daniel and Ezra and like get into that, maybe, but it's simply not part of the Moedim that's in the Torah. Now, rabbinically, though, it is definitely a minor festival. So the Tanakh, the Jewish canon of scripture, does not have like the books of Maccabees, the Maccabean books in it. That is not canon. However, the history is very much Judean Jewish history. The stories are told. the writings are kept and preserved by Jews. It's just simply not part of the Tanakh. It's not. So I wanted to read from the sages, the rabbis, and I think I can share my screen here. If I press present, share screen. Excuse me. This one. Okay, hopefully you guys can share my screen. Yes, you guys can see my screen. So this is Sefaria. Anybody has access to Sefaria. They do have some texts that are only in Hebrew, and then they have some that are Hebrew and translated into English. And up here, it gives you options of how you would like to display it. You often can do a bilingual layout, or just Hebrew or just English, and move on with your life. Okay, so this article is by Rabbi Medwed, and it is called Hanukkah's Pagan Origins, Saturnalia, Unicorns, and Fear of the Setting Sun. So this is found, he's quoted from Mishnah, from Avodah Zarah, 8a-b. So if you don't know Avodah Zarah, which is funny because my name is Zara, it means foreign or strange. Excuse me. In Hebrew, it kind of is more of like that sounds really negative, but it's more of like a scattering, very like east, agriculturally, like when the sun rises in the east and the scattering of lights happens, like that's kind of the picture there. But it is a scattering, it's a strange, it's a foreign, outside type thing. So strange service, strange worship, strange, Avodah Zarah, that's what that means. So this is basically talking about pagan worship. So the Gemara, Rav Chanan bar Rava says, which if you have not read Chanan bar Rava, like you guys definitely should, he to me writes some great things, but it says, when are these festivals celebrated? Kalinda is celebrated. So Kalinda, okay, let's just go real quick in Kalinda. So Kalinda is a festival, ancient pagan festival that was within Jewish literature. It originated with Adam. There's a whole story there, but basically it became a part of the Roman calendar and Catholic liturgy, etc. And it is all surrounded by the winter solstice. So I don't know. I didn't know if you guys knew what Kalinda was, but if not, we're going to get into that. So when are these festivals celebrated? Kalinda is celebrated during the 8 days after the winter solstice. So this is where people are like, wait, Hanukkah's not pagan. It's totally whatever. But then like in Torah, there is nothing telling you to celebrate the Feast of Dedication or the Tanakh even for 8 days. And we have our story as to why we do 8 days, but there's something more ancient that is almost identical. And then we have our own tradition based on why Adam celebrated this and what it meant to him. And so Hanukkah is kind of a resurgence of that. So anyway, Kalinda is celebrated during the 8 days after the winter solstice, and Saturnalia is celebrated during the 8 days before the winter solstice. And your mnemonic to remember which festival is that the one that occurs after the solstice is mentioned first in the Mishnah. So then that is Kalinda, right? And the festival that takes place before the solstice is mentioned after. As in the verse, you have hemmed me in behind and before. And you laid your hand upon me. Psalm Tehillim 139, verse 5. Where the word before appears after the term behind. So that's just, this is commentary, okay? We have another commentary here. Kalinda, from which the English word calendar derives, refers to the first day of the month and especially to the first day of the year. Saturnalia was a popular Roman holiday on the 17th of December dedicated to the god Saturn. Cretaceous, which was on the 1st of August, commemorated the day that Augustus conquered Alexandria in Egypt. Note that I have used the names of these holidays as Albic states that they should be read. Medieval scribes often did not know what these holidays were or what their names were, and different forms of the words can be found in other versions of the Mishnah. The anniversary of the ascension of the king to the throne is also considered to be a day of celebration full of idolatrous practices. The final 2 days of idolatrous celebration are personal, one's birthday and the anniversary of the death of a close relative. On these days, non-Jews would make idolatrous celebrations. Interestingly, Jews did not traditionally celebrate birthdays because it was seen to be a non-Jewish custom. So again, like the whole idea of celebrating Jesus' birth on this time during Saturnalia, winter solstice, it is foreign to the Jews. So we know like it just wasn't something that originated there. Everybody knows that. That is not something that we need to debate here, but I want to show this connection between all of these celebrations around the winter solstice: Yalda, Kalinda, Hanukkah, Christmas. And then not to say what anybody should be celebrating, but I'm just saying that this idea of moral superiority kind of needs to like chill out a little bit because there's a little bit of something quote unquote pagan everywhere, because institutionalized Western Christianity is what basically we derive, like what else is pagan based on that foundation and that standard. And that is not a very ancient religion. It's just not. Okay. So to continue, with regard to the dates of these festivals, the sages taught when Adam, the first man, saw that the day was progressively diminishing as the days become shorter from the autumnal equinox until the winter solstice, he did not yet know that this is a normal phenomenon. And therefore he said, "Woe is me, perhaps because I sin, the world is becoming dark around me and will ultimately return to the primordial state of chaos and disorder. And this is the death that was sentenced upon me from heaven, as it is written, and to dust shall you return." He arose and spent 8 days in fasting and in prayer. Now, do we fast and pray for Hanukkah? No, we eat. We eat a lot of food. But it is this idea of 8 days. It's connected to the winter solstice. Adam saw all these things going on, and he was like, whoa, what the heck is going on here? This must be the death that was prophesied as my punishment for my sins. Woe was me, right? He was legit scared. Okay. Because we know that it gets darker around this time. So, which that doesn't happen. Does that happen everywhere? Yeah, that would happen everywhere. It's just everywhere doesn't have daylight savings time, because why manipulate time? Anyway, once he saw that the season of Tevet, i.e. the winter solstice, had arrived, and saw that the day was progressively lengthening after the solstice, he said, "Clearly the days become shorter and then longer, and this is the order of the world." He went and observed a festival for 8 days. Upon the next year, he observed both these 8 days on which he had fasted on the previous year and these 8 days of his celebration as days of festivity. So that's 16 days right there. He, Adam, established these festivals for the sake of heaven, but they, the Gentiles of later generations, established them for the sake of idol worship. So this is saying that basically Adam was having a human experience. How do I stop sharing? Stop sharing. Okay. That Adam was having a very human experience and looking around and being like, oh my God, it's getting dark. Woe is me. This is the curse that was proclaimed on me. And then he survived and kept living and kept looking around and said, oh my gosh, the days are getting longer. It is not dark at 3:45 anymore. It is now dark. It seems a little bit later, and the days are getting longer again. And it's getting warmer outside. And with that, Adam went up and he celebrated 8 additional days. So the first 8 days, he was like, oh crap, I'm about to die. It's getting darker. Let me fast and let me pray because, my soul just needs to get it together, for the sake of heaven. And then he observed all these other things. And so the days were getting longer. It was getting warmer. He was like, okay, I made it an additional 8 days. So this, again, is corresponding to the 8 days Kalinda, or rather the 8 days Saturnalia and the 8 days Kalinda, right? That we just read about, like this Roman calendar. But we have these 8 days of Hanukkah that we don't really, it's kind of, you're not really going to get that from any text. That is just the history of this story that we tell about the miracle of the oil, right? And again, this is getting into light. This is getting into the Hanukkah. This is getting into the candle. I mean, linguistically, yeah, sure, but like Shamash. I think there's a connection there, but some people will just say it's just linguistic, which I'm okay with that because I can't necessarily prove anything different. But we are seeing the connections, and the rabbis themselves are telling us, yeah, there is some sort of connection, but the Gentiles, the Goyim, took it and made it, into some sort of idol worship. So this is Daf Shuvai to Avodah Zarah. So, which I don't know if anyone ever does Daf Yomi, but those are pretty beneficial if you're into studying. Anyway, this is an etymological story of the origins of Kalinda and Saturnalia. So people are saying this is saying that the origins of these pagan festivals that we tend to demonize Christians for celebrating and remaking as Christmas, which even to me, Christmas is more Yalda, but whatever. It's based on Adam, right? That's what this is saying. Some scholars also point to this story as the origin of why we light candles on Hanukkah. And I'm going to share my screen again so you guys know I'm not making this up. Back to what I was on. Share screen. Where was I? Okay. Yes. Some scholars also point to this story as the origin of why we light candles on Hanukkah. Holidays around the winter solstice are often associated with fire as a way of noting the beginning of the days getting longer, or to at least bring light to the darkest days of the year in the Northern Hemisphere, right? So this is what I was talking about before. Okay. There's also a sense here of cultural expropriation. Your holidays were originally our holiday in a sense, and you corrupted them. So that's basically what the rabbis are saying. While there is, of course, a negative side to this phenomenon, the supremacist ideology it espouses, it also seems to me quite natural, which it does. Our sages taught on the day that Adam, the first man, was created, when the sun set upon him, he said, "Woe is me, as because I sinned, the world is becoming dark around me, and the world will return to the primordial state of chaos and disorder." So this is what I read before. So this is expounding. He spent all night fasting and crying, and Eve was crying opposite him, which I think that is funny, opposite him. We know about this idea of Kenegdo, but I won't get into that. Once dawn broke, he said, "Evidently the sun sets and night arrives, and this is the order of the world." He arose and sacrificed a bull whose horn preceded its hoofs, and which is wild, okay, in the order that they were created. As it is stated, "And it shall please the Lord better than a bullock that has horns and hoofs." This verse is referring to the one particular bull whose horns preceded its hoofs. So there is so much more here. I don't want to, I'm already at 25 minutes and my voice is going out. But if you guys can find this on Sefaria, definitely look more into this. I would love to see more discussion around this. I think, excuse me, I think that there's not enough people doing what I would call the absolute bare minimum of true research And I mean, y'all comment below if you guys have ever heard anyone talk about the holiday of Yalda and you're not from that region, you're not Persian, you're not from that area, let me know. I would be very interested in that. If you guys ever hear anyone talking about Zoroastrianism, just true ancient Eastern religion. And the fact that so much of even, some people will come out of Christianity and they start to follow Jewish customs. And while they may not like that term Jewish, they may use Israelites or Messianic or Hebrew roots or follower of the way or just servant of Yah or servant of God and all of this stuff. And it becomes so much like, oh, those Christians and that Christmas and that pagan and that tree and that mistletoe and that whatever. But meanwhile, they're not aware that, and they're like, don't say God, don't say Lord, but then they'll call the Hanukkah candle Shamash. It's just so odd to me, especially knowing like where everything comes from. So anyway, my voice is dying. The air is very dry, but hopefully you guys learned just a little bit. I never intend to give, I don't do 3-hour long lectures. I don't intend to give all of the information, but I do like dropping little things here and there and seeing what comes out in the comments and then seeing how far I can really go and talk about things. So if you guys like this, definitely comment, let me know. I would love to hear your opinions. Teach me, share some things, information with me. And I look forward to having more discussions with you guys. Hopefully I'll be back on here before all of these holidays roll in. But if not, Merry Christmas, Hanukkah Sameach, Happy Hanukkah, Happy Winter Solstice, Happy Yalda, Happy Kalenda, happy whatever the crap you celebrate. I hope everyone just gets into their true selves, does necessary reflection, and just enjoys their loved ones. So until next time, Im Yirtzeh Hashem. Bye, everyone. Shoot. Oh my goodness, my throat.